Good afternoon, everybody. This is the regular board meeting of August 15th, 2024. It is now 4:07. We'll begin roll call. Mary.
President Cortese,
Here.
Vice President Doe,
Here.
Clerk Lay,
Here.
Member Chavez, here, Member Herrera.
Here.
All righty. Are there any members of the public who would like to provide public comment to the board on a closed session agenda item? I don't see anyone here in person. Is there anyone online or any written comments?
We have online public comment.
Okay, in that case, we will adjourn to closed session. Are back and we'll begin with 3.01, which is we're resuming 302, which is Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me. Okay, welcome to the regular board meeting of August 15th, 2024. Members of the public, please submit your public comment as follows. In-person public comment may be made in person in the boardroom by filling out a public speaker request form that is located at the door. Looks like this. If you're on Zoom, you may raise your virtual hand and request to speak and offer your comment in real time. You will have 2 minutes to speak. You may also submit comments electronically online before or during the meeting with a 1,000 character limit by accessing the agenda link to the form on the district's homepage. Please reference the agenda number in your written comment. Please note, regular and special meetings of the Board of Trustees and board study sessions are streamed live on meeting nights and are also available for viewing the day after the meeting by accessing the district's YouTube channel listed on the district's webpage at ESUHSD.org under the quick links section. The board is not able to respond to items that are not on the agenda or any personnel issues. Your comments will be read into the record and will be directed to the superintendent and or the appropriate staff member for response. Interpretation of this meeting in Spanish and Vietnamese can be heard by accessing the link and following the instructions shown on the agenda and the district's website. And so now we'll move on to 5.01, Superintendent. Are there anything that we need to remove from the agenda?
Nothing to be removed.
Okay, thank you. So before we get into our regular agenda, I just want to welcome everybody back to yet another school year. Beginnings are always a fresh start. And I wanted to start with an acknowledgement of something that I just wanted to something I heard last year, and I just would like to acknowledge that and get that out. So a couple of years ago, this board created a statement declaring what we could be counted on for. It reads, "We stand for co-creative partnerships and declare that equity for our students is neither optional nor negotiable. For this, we hold ourselves accountable." So I want to acknowledge something that happened at our board meeting on May 2nd. We had a boardroom full of people requesting to speak and had over 100 online written comments, most of which were from students. I made a decision to listen to the student online comments first, which was not our regular practice. Many people have since expressed their disappointment in the way I handled things, which did not feel to them like co-creative partnership. I have had private conversations with ESTA leadership, but have not acknowledged this in a public forum. And so I would like to do that tonight. And I welcome the opportunity to clear up anything that may be in the way of us all working together. So please feel free to email me your concerns and let's talk about it if there's something in the way for you. So with that, we will move on to 701. Our new Student Governing Board representative, Katie, is with us tonight and will be serving in that role for the coming year. I'm looking so forward to working with you, Katie.
Thank you, Patty. Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Hyun. I'm a senior at Independence and this year's SGB chairperson. I'm very honored to be here tonight. Over the summer, Jaslyn, the vice chair, and we worked to prepare for this year, and we're really excited for what we have planned. First, we're planning a leadership training day on September 21st, consisting of teaching SGB members meeting skills, presentation skills, and effective communication skills. In addition, we have been working on creating a uniform election plan across schools in the district, as we are still missing some schools representatives. This will be one of our priorities in the fall to garner more members and eventually establish a common way for each school to elect SGB members. Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic.
Love the leadership development so early.
This Student Governing Board is on it, really.
Amazing,
They're,
amazing.
yes, yeah. Okay, 8.01, this is where we can move things out of order. Superintendent, do we have anything you'd like to?
Yes, I'm going to ask that we move 1501 to directly after 801 and before 802.
1501. Okay, anything else?
That's all.
Okay, very good. All right, then let us move to 1501, which is presentation, discussion, and or action to receive the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee's 22-23 Bond Program Annual Report for measure GEI, Technology I, Z, and N. So I see Mr. Schimmel's here. Good to see you, sir. Please come up and let us know what's going on.
Thank you, President Cortese. I'm Barry Schimmel. I'm the chair of the Bond Oversight Committee for this year. And usually I begin the report by thanking the committee for doing a really good job and the staff for all their support. Although tonight I'm going to deviate a little bit. And it's because of the quality of the committee. And on behalf of the entire community, I'd like to thank you, the board, for providing us the caliber of people that have been selected to serve our committee. Examples are the expertise they bring to the table, their ability to understand budgets, the construction process, the ability to question and analyze reports of staff is displayed at every meeting. And having been on the committee for several years off and on, it is clearly superior. Not only is it diverse in its balance of gender, its balance of ethnicity, but its background in the work world. We have realtors, we have government people, we have independent folks, and they have just gelled together. And we are very, very fortunate. So my kudos to you, because you're the ones that select them. We work with them, but I have noticed a real just the girth of knowledge and ability. I would say they'll probably, speaking for me, are probably new because of their ability to ask questions. Both of us have had to work harder channeling all their energies in the different directions. So this year, our report is for the 22-23 school year. And some might ask, didn't we just finish the 23-24 year? Why are we talking about a year ago? And so to clarify, we are just closing the books, the district, on 23-24. And that process takes a few months. So the report is an annual report. And the staff has put this together with the committee, who actually helped write all of it. So in addition to complying with the law, the report is really not for you, but the community to see how their tax dollars have been spent. And I know that you have looked at it and noticed it and read it. So I'm just going to highlight about 4 or 5 pages in the report. So the people that are watching tonight, maybe from home, will see what it's about. So if we could go to page 5. Page 5. Let me see if I got the- Okay, all right, that's fine. No problem at all. What this shows the community, and it's the beginning of the report, is why they should be involved, because they're paying for it. How the sites get prioritized, because if you're at a high school, you're looking at your high school, and we have lots of them. And so how did that school get something over another school? That's an important piece. And how are the projects selected, and how can you become involved? So right at the beginning, it talks about the process so that you can understand the report. And then on page 6, the next page, we talk about all the bonds. We are a very fortunate community that we have passed 5 bonds and then a computer technology bond. And so we talk about the background of where we started at Measure G and go all the way through to the bottom. So you can see that, because you don't spend all the bond money in 1 year. And you sometimes have to take 2 different bonds to put it together to accomplish something that you want. So if we can go to page 9, we talk about the expenditures. So the average person, and I credit the committee and particularly Patrick on the committee, helps edit this. So if you read this, you will be able to see what the committee does. And it's part of a process. The external auditors perform an audit. We have to approve a statement of compliance that we've looked at this and all their tax dollars according to the reports and what we've seen and asked questions about is appropriate. So that's why the committee goes, why do you even have a bond oversight committee? It's a requirement of the bond, first of all, and the law. But second of all, we want the people that are paying the bill to become very knowledgeable about what's going on in our community. And then if we can go to page 12, one of the things that is definitely improved, and I think makes us one of the better bond oversight committees, is the pictures of different things. Where the school are, the first one happens to be Mount Pleasant, and the second one is Oak Grove. And the creativity of what was, the first picture on the top left is what the student union looked like. And you can see that line of students going around the building, because that's how long it took to get lunch. And the new building, which looks more like a college campus and has different kinds of serving abilities to feed students quicker, better, and with more quality food. Same thing on the bottom, the modernization of, this happens to be Building K at Oak Grove, what it looked like before, and then how the architect redesigned that. And you see that on the bottom. And then on page 17, we want our folks to know, what are we doing? Because it's more than just 1 year. So we list for every school all of the things that have been done for those bonds from beginning to end. And you'll notice some of them are in red. So why are those in red? Because those are the things that happened this year. But when somebody says our school only got X, look back on the list for your school. And I think that pictorial shows you that there's some equity that's applied as you spend the dollars across that. And I think that's a very important page, because nothing may have happened at your school last year. So you have to kind of look back to the beginning of all the bonds, how much was spent, and you see the dollars. And we know we have schools that were built in 1950, and we have schools that opened up in 2020. So we have a 70-year span. So that's just a snippet for the community. Our group will work with distributing this to the Rotary clubs and service clubs in the city. It will be online to read through. It's kind of fun. could be late night reading. We don't go on and on with pages. So in closing, I'm proud to be one of the representatives that gets to work with the Bond Oversight Committee. I think it's one of the best in the state, and I have the opportunity to see bond committee meetings. Our next meeting is October 16th at 5:30 at Foothill High School. And most people don't like meetings, but we have a staff that makes the best snacks in the whole wide world. And if you haven't eaten one of Shelby Tran's homemade yogurt parfaits, you haven't lived. If you go to the store and you get a yogurt parfait thing, it's a little tiny cup. There's 4 nuts on the top and maybe something else. And once you get through that, just pure and over. Not with Shelby's. Shelby starts with real fruit on the bottom, whips the yogurt through. It's different colors. Then there's bananas and blueberries and almonds on the top. And the privilege of being the chair is I got to eat one that night and take one home for the next day. So it is really a pleasure to work with that. The people are different, don't always agree. The minutes reflect that, but yet collaborative in terms of letting our community know we're spending their dollars wisely, because this is kind of an ongoing process like the bridge. We started at this end, we're going to, pretty soon it'll be 20 years and we got to come back to where we started. So thank you very much, and I'll entertain any questions you might have. Madam President.
Thank you so much for your service, Mr. Schimmel. Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you for your report. Has there been any time when the committee has sought information that it wasn't able to obtain? Or have you had access to all the information that you've sought?
We've had access to all the information. Sometimes it's timing because we only meet quarterly. And sometimes we have to have legal advice. And so there's been some issues we've talked about, bylaws, having independent counsel for legal. And so because we only meet 4 times a year, we get the information, but it may have to wait just because of the meetings. But I don't think anybody on the committee, and both New and myself, are really pretty good when we put the agenda together, go back to say what's open. And sometimes staff changes. So I've had to work with some of the assistant superintendents about, this is something that started before you, but we need to bring it to conclusion. I know at our next meeting, one of our members had asked what happened to such and such. Well, we had a little change in administration. And so we had to go get the attorney, and we're going to Zoom him in at the next meeting so people can get their questions asked directly. I have a long-winded answer, but the answer is no.
No, what?
No, that they have not had an opportunity of being ignored or not getting their information. They always get their information. It just may not be as fast.
Thank you.
Dr. Schimmel, thank you for your service. I attend in the last 3.5 years, I attend most of your meetings, I believe. I know not all, but I think most of your meetings. I just want to express my appreciation, not only with the yogurt parfait being made, I'm sure they're very good as well, but with the knowledge, the expertise that your members have possessed, and they're absolutely the best, asking the best questions. So I really enjoy attending those meetings. So I hope you can express my personal appreciation to the members, and please keep up the good work. If we on our side, it can be helpful, if you feel free to reach out. And I also want to express my appreciation for the staff, the high level of professionalisms, and how quickly they respond to the questions. So I'm grateful for the members of the committee, and also for the staff.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to the committee and the team. Excellent work, and it's reflected in the report. So the public knows we looked at an abbreviated presentation tonight, but the full presentation can be accessed, and the full report can be accessed through the agenda.
And on the district's website. Great. Okay, moving on to 802, discussion and or action to adopt proposed amendments to resolution, excuse me, 2324-23, confirming Eastside as commitment to fiscal solvency. Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, earlier in June, the county asked that we approve and present to them a fiscal solvency resolution. We said, yes, we can. However, given the timeline of it, we asked that we be given until August 30th date in order to provide that. Just a little bit of extra detail from the fiscal solvency plan you've already adopted. So we're bringing that for tonight. This has been done in collaboration with the county fiscal expert. After approving this tonight, you can expect probably in October 8th that business services comes back. Excuse me,
It's September 19th board meeting.
September 19th board meeting, but by October 8th to the county, a budget that's 3 years out and shows a even more precise plan to making sure that we fiscally solve it in the future.
Okay, I have a motion by Doe, second by Lay. All in favor? Okay. Oh, pardon me. We'll get this back. Katie, how do you vote on this issue? Thank you. And then my board votes aye. And so that passes unanimously. That will be the last time I do that tonight. My apologies. Okay,
Is that the first vote of the year?
it was the first vote of the year. So,
Welcome.
okay. There's nothing under 9, so we are up to public comment already. And I do have, I have a thing to say. And then I do have a public speaker. Members of the public may address the board on any subject not on tonight's agenda. However, provisions of the Brown Act preclude any action. As an unagendized item, no response is required from the board or district staff, and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to agendize the item for a future meeting. Any person may address the board on any item on the meeting agenda. Persons wishing to address the board may participate and comment as follows. If you're here in person, you can fill out a public speaker request form at the door. And when your name is called, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. If you're on Zoom, you may raise your virtual hand and request to speak and offer comment in real time. You'll have 2 minutes. Persons may also fill out a request form via online submission. And that, I'm not reading this huge link, but it's on the district's website. It's on the board meeting page. Is that where the link is? The online comment? Okay. Comments should be limited to no more than 1,000 characters in length. Please reference your submission. Reference in your submission the agenda item for your comment. Your comment will be read out loud as part of the public meeting. And so we do have one public speaker in person. So I called Mr. Julio Pardo.
Good, Julio Pardo, President, Chapter 197, East Foothills CSCA. First of all, good evening. Nice to see you all back. One thing I want to say is that so far it's only been a week and a half, but at least at my school, and I hope my coworkers are feeling the same way, things seem much calmer this year. We're now, 3 years away from COVID. I think our students are getting used to being back in school. Just keep my fingers crossed that it stays this way, folks. One thing I want to bring up is the fact that CSCA this year, our chapter, will be negotiating with the district new contract. And I just want to mention the fact that for the 3rd time in a row, we will be having possibly a new team to negotiate with, because it seems that every time we come up, you guys go and change your administrators just when we get used to them. Fact is that we did, I think we've had a pretty good last 4 years. Take away the COVID year, of course, because nothing was there. But since then, I think we've had a pretty good relationship with the district. I'm hoping that this will continue. I'm hoping that everything stays calm for everybody this year and we have a great school year. I know our students at Andrew Hill, where I work at, they seem to be much more involved with the school this year. And I'm hoping that happens everywhere. So just want to say, let's all have a good year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful to hear that. Are there any online or comment? or written
There's
comment?
no virtual comment nor written comment this
Okay,
evening.
thank you. We'll move on to 11:01, Superintendent's Report and Update. This is on our Safety Community Task Force, Safety and School Climate.
Well, I think
There you
Julio just gave it. Truly, in across the district, people are noticing just the level of engagement and the positive climate on our campuses. And a lot of that has to work, yeah, still norming coming back from COVID, but also from the intentionality that and driving some of our work. That's some of the recommendations for the task force and good trainings out of ed services and ways of looking at things. We know we're still going to look to identify proactive and preventive approaches through our LCAP plan. We're going to make sure that we stay consistent with consequences and responses to disruptive behaviors. If you drive by James Lick right now, you'll see there's this kind of green wall that I don't think we want to look at for long, but our bond team is putting together and starting to install the permanent fencing that will go and allow for that single point of entry. And it will look a lot nicer than that temporary fencing, I can guarantee. So I want to thank all the team, the school site council there, administration and staff, and working with our bond program and making sure that it looks the way we want it to look and it functions they want to function. So thank you for that. There also in the future will be some clarification on both our school site councils and also school safety committees. We had a training with the San Jose Police Department for greater collaboration and understanding of duties. They've made it very clear to us that they are not staffed to be on schools, but we can train together so that our interactions are student-centered and safety focused. So we're looking forward to that. Last year, we talked about the West Ed working with an outside agency to do safety audits just on the facilities and how we respond and points of entry and signage and good things like that. Over the summer, those audits were conducted at James Lick, the district office, Adult Transition Program North, and Piedmont Hills. And yes, next time we'll spell out Adult Transition Program North. And starting on the August 19th, for the remaining sites, the West Ed folk will be up and doing an audit of all of the rest of the campuses, and then providing us an opportunity to work with them to fashion a report. And then later we decide, okay, as a district, what are we doing well? Where do we want to gauge early on changes? And then long-term, what might some options be? So that's the work that's been going on and will continue to work, but just loving the way that adults and students are engaging and focusing on those positive relationships. And when something isn't going that way, responding immediately, whether that's having to stop something or to engage, to bring somebody back in. We've been watching adults and students do great work with that in the first, 6 days of school. All right, right on. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Any comments, colleagues or Katie? No? Okay. All right, 11:00, where are we? Oh, 11:02, discussion or action to adopt proposed amendments to our 24-25 board meeting calendar. I think I just need a motion for that. I think Mary, did you get the word on the retreat that okay, it's staying put. Imagine that. Okay. So I got a motion by Doe, second by Chavez, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, Katie. Oh, my God. This have an impact on you. Katie, how do you vote? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Katie, shall we move your table right there so she's staring right at you?
No, I just made a little placard now, so she's right, Katie, you're right here with me, okay. All right. 11:03, discussion and or action regarding CSBA's call for nominations for directors at large, Hispanic and Asian Pacific Islanders. Do we have any nominations? This is for, yeah, CSBA. Directors at large.
Yeah, I don't think. But that's different. That's different. We don't have any name.
So you have no names that you want to suggest, one for Hispanic director at large or Asian Pacific Islander at large?
I'm not seeing a lot of interest. Are there any other, for those of you who are connected to our local school board association, are there any members who've expressed an interest in this?
Which we already have.
Plus represent our
Right.
inside union and.
At the state level.
It doesn't have to be from us. And she's interested?
But where is she and what is her name? Sorry.
Yeah, I can't pronounce her last name. But her, I think she's part of CLSBA. She's been very active. Like she's done a lot of great work.
Is there a motion there?
Nominate Anna for the Hispanic Director at Large.
Okay,
She's gonna have her name nominated. It'll give her something to think about. She likes this kind of stuff, so.
okay. Katie, how do you vote? Okay, board? Aye. Okay, Mary, you got all that? Okay, and now is there another board member representing the Asian Pacific Islander position that anyone wants to bring forward?
I think we have someone already. She did a good job.
So would you want to nominate that person to do it again? Because they would have to, they're voting on them again.
Oh, okay, then Sylvia? Long.
Sylvia Long from Cupertino?
Okay,
Okay.
motion? That's a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moved.
Okay, Sylvia Long, motion by member Lay, second by member Doe. Katie, how do you vote? Board members? All in
Aye.
favor? Aye, okay, that's it. Good. 12:01, presentation and or discussion regarding the reentry plan for expelled students. I guess, good, look, hearing from Miriam Adlot tonight from our Student Services.
Look,
Thank you.
this presentation comes at a request from the board saying, hey, there are times where unfortunately the board does take action and via ed code to expel a student and find an alternative educational locale for them, another service model. But then when that period of the expulsion ends, it's okay, how do we reincorporate students to get back to welcoming as they are, figuring out where their strengths and where they've grown and what areas are needs still so we can positively respond for full participation. That's our goal. So tonight, our Director of Student Services, Ms. Adalat, will be bringing us, walking us through that process.
Good evening, Board President Cortese, board members, and Superintendent Vanderzee. Tonight, as Superintendent Vanderzee already mentioned, I'm going to be speaking about expulsions, a little bit about the process, and then the readmission process as well. I'm Miriam Adalat, Director of Student Services. As a leadership team, we always ground our work in our equitable community stance, where we welcome all students as they are. We positively respond to the social, emotional, academic, and wellness needs of our students, and we identify their strengths and areas of growth, and that we engage our students in tasks that develop their strategic thinking. And through the expulsion process, literally with every single student, this is really, my work is grounded in this. There's conversations about their strengths, their areas of growth, and how could they learn from from this incident, and that this incident doesn't necessarily define them, but it's a moment in time where they could learn and hopefully in the future, re-engage in a positive way. We use a systems response where we have policies in place to ensure that students can access and achieve at high levels. There's a lot of work around removing barriers for students to access supports to prevent expulsions. And then the practices where we're grounded in responding positively, engaging them in tasks that's going to help develop their strategic thinking, really through an equitable model. We utilize an MTSS framework where we look at the whole child. We know that in schools, our students don't come to us with just books and learning and pencils, right? There's a whole child that comes behind everything, where we look at their behavior and overall wellness in general. I just wanted to ground us in the fact that we're a school district and we're bound by California Education Code. And so the work that we do is really aligned with what the California Department of Education requires of us. And so I just wanted to highlight our obligation. This is a stance that we have made, and it's our commitment to ensure that a student's race, cultural background, disability, gender, sexuality, socioeconomic status, or language proficiency will not predict success or failure. It's the system's response that influences the outcome. And in a few slides, you'll see just how right now for us, the ethnicity of a student can potentially predict success or failure. And then this is language literally taken from the California Department of Education's website. And I just wanted to point out that there's an emphasis that we utilize a multi-tiered systems of support that includes restorative practices, trauma-informed practices, so on and so forth, where we understand the impact of students' actions and help develop meaningful methods for repairing the harm to the school community. And there's an emphasis that's coming from the state that's asking us as educators to help support our students. Taking a look at our data over the last 5 years, 2019-20, we had 10 expulsions, and then during distance learning, we didn't have any expulsions. And then when we returned back, we had a higher number. We had 21 expulsions. And then you see that in 22-23, we had 12, and then last year we had 13 expulsions. These were the ed code violations or education code violations this is for last school year, where we had 13 students who were expelled, of which 4 were expelled for willful force or violence. 4 students were expelled for serious physical injury. 2 students were expelled for possession, sales, or furnishing of a controlled substance. 1 student was expelled for possession of a firearm. 1 student was expelled for sexual battery. And 1 student was committed assault or battery on a school employee. Okay, so the demographics, this is for the 23-24, so last school year, we had a total of 13 students expelled, of which 12 students were Hispanic and 1 student was Filipino. I've also have the grade level, the grade of the students that were expelled. So we see that our sophomores had the highest number of expulsions. And then 31% of the students expelled were students with disabilities. So expulsions, so the way we have our process set up is when there's a possible recommendation for an expulsion, an administrator will put together a packet, which is called the student discipline review. And they can ask or request for an expulsion, an involuntary transfer, which is only for juniors and seniors. And the involuntary transfers would be to a continuation high school. Or they can request district support. And the potential, and there's a whole process behind it, right? But after a hearing or a possible agreement, there's 4 potential outcomes that can come out of that. And one is either a full expulsion. The other one is a suspended expulsion. It could be that a panel decides no expulsion, or there could be a stipulated agreement to an expulsion. This slide briefly reviews our expulsion terms. So a student can be suspended up to 2 semesters. However, for any 48915C Ed Code violations, which is a mandatory recommendation for an expulsion, that's for 1 calendar year. And that the 5 mandatory or Ed Code violations that require mandatory expulsion is a firearm, brandishing a knife, selling a controlled substance, sexual assault or battery, and an explosive. And so the potential placements that can come from an expulsion is to another comprehensive school within the district, an alternative school or independent studies within the district, county or a county community day school. Part of the expulsion term includes the rehabilitation plan. So when a student is expelled, they're expected to be in good academic standing, to attend classes regularly, that there are no major behavioral issues, that they engage in some sort of counseling to address the reason for the behavior, community service hours, and to participate in a social emotional group through the National Compadres Network, and a recommendation for parent to participate in services. So the National Compadres Network is something new that we piloted this last spring. So it was for students who were expelled in the fall and potentially returning either this fall or in the spring, this upcoming spring. And so what we wanted to do is help them engage them in a social emotional group that's really grounded in, that's culturally relevant. It's called Jove Noble, and really help them, empower them and heal through everything that they've gone through, but also really help them understand the impact of their behavior on their school community and themselves. So I would say it was a success. Many of our students who participated in the group also were engaging in their academics. So they're engaging and doing well. And you'll hear at the end, I have student voice slide where some of them gave feedback or comments about the impact that it had on them. And so we believe that our students are going to return to us, and we want them to be ready to re-engage when they do return. So that's why part of the rehabilitation plan, we've added this new component to include this social emotional group. For a student who receives a full expulsion, the student is placed at a county school, which is called the Sonoma Community Day School. And if a student is on a suspended expulsion or a stipulated agreement, there's a variety of different potential outcomes that can come from that. So juniors and seniors will usually be placed at an alternative school, which takes into consideration many factors: credits, transportation, supports, if there's possible conflicts, number of prior placements there. So there's a lot of different things that are taken into consideration when we determine what school they're going to get placed at. If a student is a freshman or sophomore, they're typically placed at a comprehensive school, taking many factors into consideration, similar to for the juniors and seniors. And at times we do utilize Sinol or independent studies or home instruction for placements as well. And for this last school year, we had, out of the 13 students that were expelled, 6 students were placed in Sinol, 3 students were placed in ISP, 2 students were placed on home instruction, and one attended Foothill.
So, quick question. So I think you might have just answered my question, but the 13 students from last year did include the stipulated agreements?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. Get your mic, get your mic.
The page right after that, I know there's no page number, but I think if I remember, I think it's probably page, let me see. California Education Code. What happened when it's more than one category? Do you pick one or the other on the violations?
Yeah, so there's many times where it could be other categories in addition to, for many, if it's not a mandatory expulsion, there has to be secondary findings. So there will be another ed code violation, but the way it's categorized in the student information system, right? It'll pick a primary ed code violation. And so that's how it's determined.
Yes. By the way, what's the name of the organization, Noble, that you said earlier?
The national, Joven Noble? It's
Noble.
a type of group that's facilitated by the National Compadres Network.
Oh, Compadre Network. Sorry, so I hear some other words. Thank you. First of all, I just want to take a moment to thank you for your presentation and also Superintendent VC. We have had this conversation a number of times to bring it back to the board, so I'm grateful for that. The reason I'm asking is I truly want to have an understanding of what happened to our students after they go to the expulsions. How do they re-entry? What happened to them? Did they graduate from our high school? Do they have some path where they can be, as the word of that Glenn and I've always do, full
So,
participant of.
The segue into the next, there we go.
Okay.
Leading the way.
Wait.
Well, actually, before you move off your current slide though, I was curious. So a number of our students are going to Sunol, but a number of them are not. And I know we pay for a certain number of seats at the beginning of the year. Do we know how many seats? I don't mean to.
we
Surprise
paid
you
for
with that
10
question,
seats
but-
last year, and then we purchased several more, only because any student that the year before they were expelled and they didn't complete their expulsion term, it goes into our next year's count. So therefore, like this year we've bought 13 seats. We've purchased
Okay.
13. Yeah.
But it's not 50. I mean, it's.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Good to know.
So for the readmission process, I usually get documents from Sunol Community Day School before a student returns. If a student is on independent studies or home instruction, then I connect with the teacher to get their documents to see how student is engaging. And then I hold a meeting with the family and student, and it's usually happens during the summer. So I would say starting in end of April, May through June, I have meetings. If the student is returning from Sunol, then I also meet in partnership with Sunol. So it'll be myself, Sunol's team, so their counselor, their principal, the family, and the student. And then the student can bring an advocate or a community partner, a mentor, and then we review the rehabilitation plan. We really dive deep into what led to the student's success or challenges. And it's a combination of both sometimes. Sometimes the student is really, really successful. And sometimes at the beginning, they may have some hiccups and then you see them like really do much better. So we talk about those, and we talk about the potential of them returning and what would that look like. And so it's an open conversation with the student and with the family to really assess, to determine, is the student ready to come back? And does the student want to come back? There's many times where a student says like, they don't feel ready. We talk about supports needed, areas of concern. There's a support plan that's developed with the student and parent. And if the student remains at their current school, we make a determination, or do they return back to their home school? We make that determination. And then once we determine that the student will re-enter into one of our schools or go back to their home school, if that's what's going to happen, then everything that I covered during the meeting, I have a conversation with the APA to make sure that the APA has a re-entry meeting with the student and family before the student returns. Ideally, that happens before school starts. So it could be that they provide a tour. Sometimes we receive eighth graders who were expelled, and now they're returning, they're coming to us as freshmen, and they've completed their expulsion term. I still have the APA conduct a transition meeting with them to make sure that the student is ready. They do a tour of the school, talk about the supports, go to the wellness center. So it's really, we try to be as intentional as we can so that students feel confident and comfortable to re-engage. Should I did not recommend readmission, the student may appeal the denial. So this year we had 2 students who were not readmitted back with us. And both of the students did not engage much in school at all. They didn't engage. So if they're not going to school at Sinol, then they're not really accessing all the supports necessarily to access counseling, which is part of their rehabilitation plan. And so a lot of times, specifically for those 2 students, both Sinol and I felt that the students weren't ready to return. So what I'm scheduling with both of the students and their families separately in Sinol is a meeting to talk about, once again, the rehabilitation plan, the expectations, and then what additional support the student needs to feel successful, and the importance of engaging. So those 2 meetings will be coming up soon. We also review all the written materials related to the denial of readmission, and then the board shall readmit the student unless the board makes a finding that the student has not met the conditions. So the appeal process would come to the board, essentially. If for those 2 students, for example, that I did not recommend readmission, if they wanted to appeal my decision, then the appeal would come to the board. And I just want to close with a few of the students' comments that they may have made to me. They're very powerful. I mean, these are just a few that I was able to capture, but after one of the expulsion hearings, one of the students said, "Thank you, ma'am, for the support, for everything." The student was expelled, but still thanked me for the support for everything. So although it's by law, they have to go through this process, I try to make it as restorative as I can, at the same time for them to really be reflective about their behavior and learn from it. But as I mentioned at the beginning, it's not a defining moment, right? They're children, they make mistakes. We want to be educators to help them learn from their mistakes. So I try to make the process as, restorative as I can. After a pre-expulsion meeting, a student said, "I know that what I did was wrong and I will try to do my best to do better." And I'll just read maybe one of the parent comments. This is a parent whose child participated in the National Compadres Network group. The school social worker, Noe, would pick up my son when I wasn't feeling well from the treatment was a big help. So the parent was going through some sort of health treatment. I would ask him 30 minutes before group would start and he would always show up. He was really reliable. So we attached part of the group. We had 2 of our social workers from within the district to help support the students through the group. So it was a really powerful group. It was a small group, but it was really powerful, and we're learning as we're going along. So.
You know what? These are really small, and I don't know if all my
Sorry.
colleagues have no, can I ask you to read the one? That was, so the NCN student facilitator.
Yes.
What's the student facilitator?
Yeah, so we have students who have been trained through the NCN model. So now they're facilitators, they're student facilitators. I could read, would you like me to read that one?
It's beautiful. Yeah. Would you read it?
Being in Circle has helped me be at peace with most of my problems, helping me do things more calm and respectful. It has showed me that there's space for men to improve on themselves and release all the things in their minds, or release past trauma to help improve themselves and relationship with the people around them. What we can do the most for future youth is to be there for them. Make sure they always have someone they can talk to, that there are people willing to help them. Show them they aren't alone in this world, and that there is always someone out there willing to reach a helping hand towards the youth. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for, I'm having a moment here. Thank you for that incredible presentation and for the work you do. And, things happen, they're young people and, that we can take those moments and create teachable, life-changing opportunities is a miracle and it's what we hope for, right?
Yeah.
So colleagues, any comments?
First of all, just thank you for this comprehensive presentation. But I think more importantly than that, just thank you to you and the whole team for the way that you think about our students. I truly believe that them being expelled is not like, doesn't define them as humans, but it's important that we have the people that are doing the work and engaging with our students to truly have that approach as well and deeply believe that. And I could hear it and feel it from you and team that I've heard speak about that. So thank you. Don't take that for granted.
Thank you.
I think it's brilliant that you all are engaging the National Compadres Network, because when you look at the data of our students that are being expelled, it's Hispanic. So you're being culturally responsive. I think that's important, not just to say, well, these are the things that we've done traditionally. And so that's what we're going to continue doing. It's important to look at what population you're engaging with and what are potential ways that this process might be more meaningful for them and everybody around them, including their families. A question that I do have is, as you've engaged in this process, what do you see is at the root of the problem? I see, and maybe by having National Compadres Network, that's a response to what trend you see at the root, but I'm wondering if whatever the answer is there, if we have an answer, if we can figure out ways to get ahead of it.
Yeah. So for sure, I've seen trends, trauma. It's existent and it's like consistent throughout all of their lives. And then the lack of connection to school, meaning not because of their choice, but because of not feeling a sense of belonging, not feeling like they know the material, so they don't engage in class. But majority of the time, I want to say out of all the students that I've worked with, 99% of this time students want to engage, want to work, but they just don't know how. And so I think today I met with a student today who I asked about his behavior and why he responded the way he did. And he said, I don't know. I blacked out. I actually don't even remember what happened. And so I said, do you understand that that's a trauma response? And he said, no, what does that mean? So I literally explained to him how our bodies go into fight, flight, freeze, and that it's so important that he gets some therapy, he gets some counseling to work through that trauma, because we don't want him to respond like that as an adult. Like, what does that mean for you?
I love that. And actually, as you were speaking, I feel like we had a conversation where you were talking about Compadres Network doing some work with our 9th graders. And if we look here at the data, it's the 10th graders who have the most expulsion. So is that what, okay, I answered.
Yeah,
my
so
own
yeah,
question.
that's a piece of the preventative work, right? The proactive work in terms of identifying our students through our data, whether it's our early warning system or shape data or our referrals coming in through our care team to try to get ahead of it, right? To try to get ahead of our students who are in need of some sort of service. And that's one of those elements of bringing organizations like the Compadres Network to do some work with our incoming 9th graders, as well as our New Hope for Youth, our City Peace Project, and the other partnerships that we have.
Yeah, especially with our 9th graders, they're new to the school and just the system as a whole. That could be overwhelming on top of everything that might be going on. Is another reason why it's so important to be looking at the data every so often, right? And it's not just the academic data, it's how are our students doing as humans so that we can catch these things. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, and just to pick up on that, obviously it's disturbing to see 31% of students who are expelled have disabilities, and then I'm picking up on this quote from the student that says, be in the schools. Why do we have to get in trouble to be in the group? So maybe to your point about getting ahead of it, spotting those students who have experienced trauma or are dealing with disabilities or other, challenges. And obviously that's a difficult conversation to have in the face of the budget year that we're heading into, but maybe we need to find some community partners or grants or something to really address this need. Yeah.
Yes, and I also think we use an MTSS framework where instruction is important, right? And I think when kids are engaged in the classroom, then that's when it's so much more powerful. I think the supportive services are necessary as well, but what happens in that classroom, I feel that's like that's the key. It's like the most powerful piece.
Thank you for the report and thank you for the presentation and thank you staff has done such a good work to support the student. Do we have any survey or report when after the kid, get out of the expulsion, they come back to the school, either, to their home school, were their behavior changing or how would they catch up with their grading? So I want to know a little bit more, the process when the kid, finish their term by expulsion, like a two semester, right? So and some of the kid, probably learn the lesson, but I don't know that, how their family and the district support them so they can continue to, overcome all of those challenge, maybe the drama in their life.
Yeah. So we have the reentry meeting that happens, and then a referral is made to the school site's care team. And so there's a team of people who meet and discuss the reason for the referral and discuss the supports that need to be in place, so that the student gets the support that they need throughout, right? Throughout the day, throughout the year. So we just don't just let them go. And then our student services specialists here at the district office, they're checking students' attendance regularly, checking their transcripts at the end of the semester to make sure they're staying on track. I would say majority of our students who return and re-engage to some extent, where they're successful. Meaning they might get into behaviors again a little bit, but behavior change takes time, right? So they may engage in some negative behavior, then they pick back up and then re-engage and they do well. It also just depends on the student and everything else that's going through. So while we provide support through this process, there's a lot of things that go on in a child's life outside of school, right? And so those things can continue to happen and impact students. Which we see that's when they may start to disengage. But so this will be my 4th school year. So out of the 3 school years, I've only had 1 student come up twice for an expulsion. So other than that, the students continue and they're able to reintegrate and they're okay.
So sometime that the student that was expelled, they might not go back to their home school, correct?
Correct.
Then they probably will lose all of their friends. And would they be a lot of, challenge because they have to build the new friends and the new environment?
There's challenges and there's positives, right? It's an opportunity for a fresh start. Maybe their friends put pressure on them, or maybe they feel that they have to be a certain way because of their friends. So those are conversations that we have talking about going back and what will that look like? Who are your friends? Who are still there? So there's pros and cons, and those conversations happen before we make a determination if the student should go back to the same school or not.
Thank you. So I have.
Thank you. Once again, I just want to express my gratitude for the presentations and the work that you do. I know it's quite challenging and hopefully rewarding as well. I remember I organized 3 years ago on some of the vote for expulsions, and the question I asked from Superintendent Vendezi was, what happened to the students after we expel, we vote for expulsions? I appreciate the plan for reentry, but if we look back at this, 21 students 3 years ago, 12 students 2 years ago, and 13 students last year. I'd love to be able to see what happened to these 21 students 3 years ago. Did they graduate from us? Did they go to career training? What happened to them? And maybe they're no longer in the district, but I'd love to have that statistic so that we can understand, look in the data so that perhaps there's a way we can find a way for them that could be full participant of Silicon Valley, as Glenn often say.
Yeah, I can get that information and share it.
I'll be grateful. Please send it. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I learned a lot. I knew nothing about this process before, so thank you. I saw on the slides that independent studies was one of the options for placement. As you mentioned that the classroom is important to help a student be situated, why would independent studies be chosen as a placement, and how is it ensured that students are given the right resources they need even when they're at home?
That's an excellent question. So many times if we're selecting independent studies, the challenge is that there's probably safety concerns at any other school, including Sunol Community Day School. And so it would be very difficult for me to place a student at a community day school when I know that they cannot attend. So we put them on independent studies and provide them with additional support. Their independent studies is via Zoom, not in person. But we have access to tutoring, which is not paper. It's a different agency that we contract with. So they get access to tutoring. We have other staff within student services that do home visits, do check-ins with them to ensure. And actually many of them were part of the National Compadres group. Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for the
you.
presentation, and thank for all the work that you do with these students and the team as a whole. And this is heavy work, right? These are 13, we're a district of 20,000 students. We're talking about a group of 13. But I know that this team invests in every single one for their best outcomes. And I want to thank, it'd be easy to lose a group of 13, right? With all the other pressures, but you're keeping an eye on these students and seeing them through is truly appreciated.
Okay, 1202, discussion and or action to waive second reading requirement and adopt proposed amendment to board policy 5145.3, non-discrimination harassment.
Move for approval.
I'd like to, no, I need to understand why we're waiving the second reading and what this is, so.
You almost got it, Teresa, almost.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. Teresa Marquez, Associate Superintendent. So for this item, the reason why we are asking for a waiving of the second reading and asking for approval based on the first reading is because of federal program monitoring, which is requiring us to do an update to this particular board policy. The updates are standard as per GAMIT. GAMIT just had, or CSBA just had an update in July of 2024. And we have to institute those changes because of the connection to Title IX and our UCP process. In addition, we have to now include our 504 coordinator's name. And so you'll see now that name added and that title added to the board policy.
Okay, so this is a timeline type of issue?
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. So I have a motion by who? Herrera? Second by Doe. Katie, how do you vote on this? Okay, board? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, 1301, presentation, discussion, and or action on facility rental overview and process. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Nguyen, our new business officer. Oh, no.
And I will
Matt
pass the
Select,
ball over to
Lieutenant.
Matt to
Welcome, Matt.
Good evening.
Hey, Matt, don't get set up like that. Here's over the last couple of years, we've heard many comments about the facilitron or the use of facilities by the public or the rates of that or the processes for asking for a facility rental or when a deposit is made and given and how do charges get established and what are the rules for this? And how do we maintain while we're renting facilities? How do we make sure that they stay in good repair, right? So tonight, what Matt's going to be presenting with us is just kind of an overview of ed code as it relates to it, pricing, how the process works, and in so doing, inviting your observations, values, maybe your questions, which will allow the team to go away then and maybe synthesize some of that and come back with some recommendations for your determination tonight. So tonight, there's no action. This is just for you all to get an overview and for us to hear some of your observations, values, or questions in public.
Absolutely.
Can you please adjust the microphone?
Yeah.
upward towards you?
Can you guys hear me okay? Excellent. Good evening. My name is Matt Stalaskis. I'm the Director of Maintenance and Operations for the district. Please bear with me when I get nervous. I talk really fast, so just tell me to slow down. That's okay. Tonight, we're going to cover 4 things. We're going to go over the Civic Center Act and funding, which is basically why we run our facilities and the rules of running our facilities. We're going to talk about Facilitron, the platform we use to process our reservations. We're going to do a price comparison, comparing our pricing to neighboring districts' pricings. And we're going to talk about next steps and how we go forward from here. So we're going to start off tonight with the State's Civic Center Act, our board policies and funding sources. Go to the next page. So the Civic Center Act authorizes the use of school facilities as civic centers for the good of the public. It allows and requires in some circumstances the charging of fees for these services. So the Act identifies 3 groups and fees that can be charged for each group. So the first group is nonprofits and organizations designed to promote youth and school activities. The district may charge what's called direct costs, and we'll talk about direct costs on the next page. Religious organizations in the district shall charge direct costs. And general use, the district shall charge fair rental value, and we'll talk about fair rental value. So for the next page, so what is direct cost? The state likes to use these weird terms that don't make any sense until you read the code. So direct cost up until January of 2025 are the costs of supplies, utilities, janitorial services, district employees, employees associated with the administration of the rental program, as well as a proportional share of the maintenance, repair, restoration, and refurbishment of the space for the time it's being rented. And after January of 2025, that last bullet point, the maintenance, repair, restoration, and refurbishment goes away. So the state's changing the law in January. So what is fair rental value? By the name, you would think it's, a competitive rate, something you would go and rent a space for in the public. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So fair rental value is the direct cost plus a share of the long-term wear and tear or depreciation of the building and equipment for the time the renter is using the building. So if a renter is renting the building for 3 hours, they would pay for that 3 hours of depreciation. We go to the next page. So we have 2 main board policies that talk about facilities use. The first is section 1330, which outlines the procedures for rentals and identifies 3 rental groups. That's no charge, nonprofits, and then all other groups. And section 1330E, which establishes our fee schedule and fee structure. So I'm a maintenance person. I like buildings. That's kind of my world I live in. So I'd like to look at why we charge fees in terms of the building and the life cycle of the building. So when we have a new building, we build it through either property tax dollars or bond dollars. The building then gets used and the students and staff use the space for its educational functions, and the district pays for that through the district's general funds. A community member, business, or others may use the space not related to its educational functions, and they would pay the costs associated with that usage. And then at the end of the cycle, a bond fund or property tax dollars are used to either modernize or rebuild a school building. Go to the next page. So a common misconception that I hear is that facility rentals is a profit center for the district. I even got that from my wife as I was preparing this. She works at one of our school sites. And I'm like, fortunately, that's not the case. So direct costs is basically recuperating some of the costs associated with the building itself, so upkeeping the building and the use of the time. Fair rental value adds in the proportion of the depreciation of the building. Neither of these calculations are more than the district's cost for the space that's being rented. And both are less than what a renter would find on the open market. So if we look at the next page, we did a comparison, comparing what it would cost to rent a multipurpose room at one of our high schools for a weekend compared to some spaces you could run in the neighborhood. So some public spaces, so Scottish Rite Center, some open public spaces, that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, our cost is between 50 and 75% less expensive than our neighboring. So if we go to the next page, our roadmap, we're going to talk about Facilitron.
Generally 50 to 75% less expensive than what? Than the private sector? than
Correct.
Other schools?
So then, if one of our renters was to go rent a private space, so an event hall, a space to hold a reception of sorts, our spaces are between 50 and 75% less expensive than that.
It's not comparing to other school districts. It's
Correct. So
comparing to the labor, to the market.
Exactly, yeah. So we'll talk about comparing to school districts in one more section. So we have a slide deck talking about comparing. It's coming, yeah. All right, so next up on our roadmap, we're going to talk about Facilitron. Facilitron is a centralized facility rental platform that the district uses to manage all of our facilities rentals. So some key benefits to our renters are the ability to view our spaces online, a variety of ways to pay for our spaces, a convenient method to purchase insurance, and 24-hour support from the Facilitron team, and a whole bunch more. And some key benefits to the district include one calendar to manage all their reservations. So it manages school site reservations, it manages rental registrations, and it manages maintenance blocks. So if I need to take a space down for maintenance, I can do that in Facilitron. It processes customer payments and refunds for us. It verifies the renter's nonprofit status for us. It verifies the insurance documents that they're accurate and they meet the requirements of the district. It provides customer support for us, and it provides analysis, reporting, best practices, and a whole bunch more that we use. So I want to walk you guys through kind of an overview of how one of our renters, one of our community members would rent one of our spaces. Go to the next page. So from the Facilitron landing page, on the top right-hand corner, we're going to click sign up, and we're going to create an account. It's going to ask us for typical information, your name, your email address, your contact information, and the type of organization. So is it a personal use? Is it a nonprofit? Is it a business? Go to the next page. So for this demonstration, I used the search box and I searched for a boardroom, and I found this beautiful boardroom that we're in right now. So I clicked on it. And if we go to the next page, it brings us to the homepage for the boardroom. And that homepage shows photos of the space. It shows details on the space, such as capacity, such as rates, such as amenities. And it has a calendar showing the availability of the space. It's kind of hard to see, but the little green dots mean that it's available, and the little grayed out box means that there's no availability. Using the calendar, we're going to click on a day to schedule a reservation. If we go to the next page. So that little box where the calendar was changes to a little time frame, and it shows the available time on the day that the space is available. We're going to select our time frame, and we're going to click continue. I don't have it on here, but a little pop-up box is going to pop up. It's going to ask you to see if you want to do any more spaces for that same time. So if you need more than one space, you can do it all at the same time. So next, we're going to take to the page where we can add additional dates to our reservation. So if we want to add additional dates for the same space, additional dates for different dates, we can do it all in one checkout process. And then we're going to click checkout. On the next page, we're asked to provide some additional information about our event. So the name of the organization or the name of the person that's going to be kind of heading up the event, the event name, the type of event, the number of people that's attending, and some general information. And most importantly for us is how they want the event set up. So for this boardroom, do they want it a presentation format? Do they want it a U-shape? How do they want to have it set up? Once complete, we'll click continue, and then we'll go to the next page. On this page, we're offered a couple things. So we're offered to purchase insurance through Facilitron. So you don't have to purchase insurance through Facilitron, but you do have to have insurance in order to use our spaces. Facilitron insurance is convenient, but people can also do insurance to their homeowners insurance, their third-party apps, a whole bunch of ways you can get insurance if you wanted to. We're offered the opportunity to rent tables and chairs for the event. And once we make those selections, we're going to click continue. I'm going to go to the next page. So we're asked to agree to the district terms and conditions for using the space. And just for the board members' information, one of the terms that we have to agree to when using our spaces is we will not hold anything that overthrows the government. I learned that while preparing this. So no overthrowing the government from it. We're not allowed to rent facilities to anybody who wants to overthrow the government. That's one of the requirements in Ed Code. Yep. That's one of the surprising things that I found when I was researching this is that is a requirement in ENCODE, and we have to ask the question and make sure that they're agreeing not to do that. So yeah, I was kind of surprised. So your weird fact for the night. Yeah. So if we go to the next page, so we are asked to pay for a deposit on the space. This helps prevent fraudulent or denial of service type attacks against the reservation system. And we can pay this via credit card, by e-check, by PayPal, or we can actually mail in a paper check if you want to do that. A lot of businesses do that. And if we go to the next page, our request has been submitted and is waiting for approval and review by the school site. We have the ability from this page to submit a message regarding the reservation. So it's like a email message going to the site, but it's tracked in the system so we can see all the different messages back and forth. If we choose not to purchase insurance through Facilitron, we can upload our insurance document here, and we can upload other documents if there's any other documents. And we can also now manage this reservation from the Facilitron dashboard. It's a little dashboard that shows all of your reservations. We can now see it in that dashboard. So if we go to the next page. So the reservation's been made and now it goes to our school sites for review. So typically this is done by the Associate Principal of Administrative Services, or the APA, at the school sites. That's done at our comprehensive sites. Sometimes our smaller sites have somebody else who does it, but they will confirm that the space is available for use. There's no conflicts, that they're not having like 3 major events at the same time, that kind of stuff. They'll verify what staffing is necessary for the event. So by default, Facilitron will automatically put in like 1 custodian for weekends. It knows whether we have custodians on staff or not, but they need to look and review, hey, do we need a AV tech? Do we need more than 1 custodian? Do we need pool techs? That kind of stuff. So they'll look at that. And then they'll confirm that the staff is available. So is there actual staff that can come in and do the work? Do they need to find staff from other sites? How that, make sure that's all taken care of. And there's a whole bunch of additional items they need to look into. So is security needed for the event? Are there neighborhood events going on at the same time that might conflict and impact things? Is there school issues going on? Is there construction that might impact the event? All this kind of add-on stuff they're going to look at and review before they approve the reservation. So if we go to the next page, our next step on our road trip, it's Mr. Herrera's question on comparing prices between us and our neighboring districts. So if we go to the next page, so I tried my best to make everything as equal as possible. So I used my own email address and set up my own account, so it wasn't on a school account. I didn't get anything confusing there. I selected insurance for everybody that would select insurance. That was equal there. Everybody but Fremont Union provides insurance to the platform. Fremont Union doesn't, so all the insurance cost is the same. So I put on the next deck to look at kind of an estimate of insurance for Fremont Union. And then Facilitron charges a service fee to cover the cost of their operations. So how districts pay for this service varies. So at Eastside, we split it. So the service fee is 10%. We pay 5% out of our general fund. The renter pays 5%. Some districts pay for everything out of their general fund. Some districts charge the renter everything. It really just depends on how it's set up. So we go to the next page. So this one is comparing a swimming pool for 5 hours on a weekend. So our rental fees and Fremont Unions are really similar. And then our neighboring districts are between $240 and $750 higher than ours. So just so you guys know kind of how this breaks down. So our cost is along the top. If it's red, then it's higher than ours. If it's green, I don't think there's any greens. Greens is lower than ours. And then if I didn't color it, it means it's kind of equal or within about $100 of each other. Cost difference is provided. The down payment, so most districts charge 35%. Gilroy charges 25% for a down payment. Service fee and then how it's split. So us and Gilroy charge 5%, so we split it. The other 3 districts provided, the district pays the entire thing out of their general fund. And then any notes, so like Santa Clara Unified charges $500 refundable deposit in addition to the fees. And then like we talked about, Fremont Union does not include insurance. So I put in an estimate there for insurance based on the average price or the price for this use. And I've broke down the price there for you guys. So I hope that all makes sense. Yeah, so what I did was I made a mock reservation for a pool at each of these locations and used the fee that Facilitron split out. So some sites might go in and charge, extra fees. I can't tell what other sites will put in after the reservation is accepted. This is just the base price for all the sites. So does that make sense? So if we go to the next page. So I did a sample for a, do the right one, classroom, right? Yep. A classroom rental for 4 hours on a weekday. Our rental fees were coming in lower than all of our neighboring districts. Go to the next page. So I did a library for 4 hours on a weekend. Fremont Union and us are coming in again about the same price, and the neighboring districts are coming in a little bit higher than us. And the last comparison I did was for a football stadium for 3 hours on a weekday. Our pricing came in lower than our neighboring districts. One thing to note here is some districts for the football stadium for the pools, though I didn't put it here, but they'll go in, they'll charge, extra fees for the restrooms of the stadium, for the locker rooms, and those are mandatory fees. So we don't charge in those mandatory fees. So if we go to the next page, on our last step for the road trip, and that's next steps. So our next steps are, we'd like to review and update our board policies and administrative regulations regarding facility rentals. We'd like to conduct a fee study to determine appropriate rental fees in order to be in compliance with the changes in the law coming in 2025. And we'd like to review and update our operational processes and procedures, focusing on routings and approvals, response times for our sites to approve the reservations, and then review our deposit amounts and how we can make deposit amounts a little bit easier while not eliminating them, if that makes sense. So that concludes my presentation. So I'm ready to answer a gazillion questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got a comment over. Oh, let's start with Katie. Katie has, no. We defer to Katie. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much for your presentation. I had a question because at Independence, we've had many cultural dance clubs who have wanted to rent out the theater before.
Yep.
And so when talking to a school faculty member, they were charged, each club was charged over $1,000 for using the theater for a few hours of showcase. And earlier before the meeting, I went on Facilitron and I tried seeing how much it was to rent the theater, and it was $441, which is a big difference than what they were asking student clubs to make, what they had to fundraise for, just to pay to use their own theater. So my question is, how is the fees decided on Facilitron? And when students want to use facilities like the theater, should they go to the website? Should they talk to the teachers who are supposed to decide the fees, or how does that process work?
Yeah, so generally speaking, student events that are for our students and run by our students should have no fee. So I can talk to your associate principal, administrative services, and see what's going on with that. If it's an event that's being used by like outside groups and that kind of stuff, then it would have a fee, and then you have to go through Facilitron. So let me follow up with your administrative team and see what's going on there. There may be some sort of, something going on there.
Refund.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to make a general comment that it bothers me that we used to have in our budget maintenance costs and capital expenditures for when we need to handle, the aging facility or something like that, and that this legislation shifted some or significantly, onto users, what used to be otherwise handled in our budget, both operational and capital expense. It just bothers me, especially, when it's, groups that are doing good work in our community. And it doesn't bother me if it's some private, group that is charging money, making money and whatever. That doesn't bother me. They can pay all the fees. But it bothers me that we have a system in place that apportions some of the cost of mid to long-term maintenance and repair and all of that stuff. I just making that as a general statement.
So just so you know, on that part of the legislation is ending in January of 2025. So
it's ending.
That portion of it, yeah. So the ability to charge for the maintenance, those items there, goes away in January 2025.
Well, that's nice. The other comment I had, I had it right on the tip of my tongue.
When it comes back to you, I'm here. So.
Oh yeah, you have to come back. I have other comments too, but I'll remember them in a moment.
I'll be here, no worries.
Okay.
I'll be asking a lot of questions, so your question will just pop up. Thank you. When did we start using Facilitron as a platform to rent out our space?
About 10 years ago.
10 years ago. So we had probably a pen and paper or some sort of format I see Tom, our CEO nodding his head. When we make these transitions, when there are challenges or dispute or a misunderstanding, which one is our responsible on our side, which one is responsible for Facilitron, because they are receiving this 10% of the fee. Where is the division line?
What do you mean?
So like Katie's asked earlier, hey, I'm going for Facilitron, I'm applying for this, they're charging 400, and perhaps they should be charging a different amount. Does she contact her APA like you suggested earlier, or does she contact Facilitron? Where is the,
So,
you know,
yeah.
or remember the public, because remember the public may not have access to the APA the way that our students may have access to.
So think of Facilitron as a pass-through for information. So don't think of it necessarily as a roadblock, think of it as a communication portal. So basically when a person calls into Facilitron, the Facilitron rep will reach out to the site contact, so generally the APA. If they have questions that they need expedited or they have questions that they need escalated, then are routed to me to kind of deal with escalation level. So Facilitron doesn't make any decisions for us. The decisions are all left with Eastside. They act as the communication platform and the platform for use, basically.
There's an 800 number when people reserve. Is that the contact to Facilitron?
So there's lots of different contacts to Facilitron. So the 800 number is one. There's a live chat option they can use, and they can also use the messaging function inside their dashboard, inside their reservation.
So going back to the basic questions, what I'm trying to understand is, what is the division of responsibility? Which one is the Eastside Union APA / Eastside? Where is the divisions for Facilitron to be responsible for?
So Facilitron is merely the platform that we use to advertise, to accept the reservations and take payment. As far as decisions around pricing and specific accommodations, that's up to the school site to accommodate.
Customer service response, who is responsible for
That's a
that?
school site.
The school site.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. And that,
Whenever you're ready.
oh yeah,
I'd like
you
to
can jump
know.
in anytime. I'm rolling for a while.
In the,
so go
in the
ahead.
same case, if a student group was to go to administration and say, we're holding this event, the administration can just block out that time and place through Faciliton without the student group having to go through the process, the
Right.
payment process. So it's within the student group's abilities to work with administration to say, can you block out this theater for this number of hours? Because you agree that we can host an event.
Exactly. Generally, the athletic directors, the activities directors, the APAs all have access to make reservations for the different groups and their different specialties. Some sites have more people that can make reservations, but generally all.
And in those cases, the student group shouldn't be charged. In the same way that the administration can block out the gym for basketball games or league games, and similar with cultural events.
Same idea, yep.
The legislation that created this system, I clearly understand that it authorized districts being able to do this. Did it mandate it?
It did for most things. So if you jump back, Mr. Superintendent, back to the slide that shows the may and shall, I don't remember which number it is.
So by state law, we're mandated to
We are. So
handle our facilities in this manner.
yeah, so for nonprofits and organizations designed to promote youth and school activities, the district may charge direct costs.
That's a may.
Yep.
That's not a mandate.
Correct, yep. So for religious organizations, the district shall charge direct costs. So that's a mandate. And for general use, the district shall charge fair rental value.
Okay. But the ones most closely in, it's may.
There are some that may, absolutely, yep.
Okay, well, that's a
Yep.
pretty major distinction. The other thing is, do we have a body of customer satisfaction feedback or issues that customers have experienced? Or before we get to any deliberation on decisions and whatever, I would certainly be interested in surveying the customers that we now have a history of serving.
I can see that's possible. yeah.
And probing for what was their experience, what was difficult, or even just as our student just recounted, they're surprised that to use their own theater, they're supposed to raise $1,000 or something. I really want to hear all of the issues that arose for people across time. And I'd like it documented, just so it's part of what we deliberate on.
Yeah, we definitely see that's available, yeah.
And I forgot one last thing.
What do you mean by across time?
Well, it's been 10 years that we've been using Facilitron. Over the 10 years, we've been serving the community, different groups and so on.
Sure.
And we have records of who we have served through this system. I mean, over those 10 years, instead of using the phrase across time, let's find out let's probe, even if you reach a percentage of them that respond and engage and give feedback, it'll be valuable data,
Yeah, makes sense.
There's also another. There's also another component. Our site are being managed by our administrators on the Facilitron, right? Do we provide training to our site administrator?
We do.
On the policies, the usage of Facilitron?
We do. So at least since I've started as the director of facilities, every new administrator, so every new APA who usually oversees it, and every new principal, we've gone through and done a orientation. And one of the things we cover is the board policies in relations to Facilitron, how to use Facilitron, how to, look through it, how to understand how it works. And Facilitron also has a wide network of training videos, training documents on how to use it. We share with them. And
Do we have some statistics on which site get usage per, we have calling out 16 site. Do we have statistics on that?
so I just pulled some real brief information as I was sitting back there. So this is for the last school year. So there were 618 external reservations, which equals out to about 1.6, just over $1.6 million. The top reservations, these are external reservations only, were Yerba Buena with 102 reservations, Piedmont Hills with 100 reservations, and Mount Pleasant with 81 reservations. I can pull more data, but that's such.
But those are the top three.
Yeah.
Well, one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would, I don't know how we would gather this type of data that I'm gonna say. But if we could, it would be interesting, and that is the opportunity cost. Groups that have not proceeded with something when they encountered this system and its costs, and so on. Again, I don't know how one would determine that, but basically you could survey some of the key nonprofits in the area.
That may be hard to.
Because my instinct, my intuition is it has stymied groups as they've encountered Facilitron and its fees and oh my God, and the student group that was just mentioned was able to work with what they were surprised to discover, $1,000 to use their own theater. But there are going to be other groups out there that didn't go forward with some because of this system and its costs, And again, I don't know how that would be documented, but it would be interesting.
Well, and if I could gently challenge you a little bit, I want to make sure, given that we're entering into a period now where we have, limited resources, human resources to get, accomplish things, I think I would rather have the facilities staff be working on taking care of our facilities rather than doing marketing surveys and things like that. That's just this board member's feeling about it.
The board is being engaged at a policy level to review something that's been in operation for 10 years. And the kind of data I'm suggesting, certainly surveying our customer base. This other part, I'm just saying, I don't even know how you would do that. But I don't see that as marketing. I see that as essentially research and analysis at the level of a policy discussion at the board. And if that doesn't get accomplished, this ambiguous one, I can totally understand that it wouldn't be accomplished. But certainly we can survey our customer base with some kind of an instrument.
For what end though? Because I'm clearly seeing that this isn't like a money-making thing for us. It
isn't.
So there's no profit, right? So the charges that we charge are to offset the cost of the districts, right? So when somebody's using a facility, the air conditioning is running, the lights are running, the custodian's there to clean up, the PG&E is still running, all that kind of stuff. So when somebody rents our facilities, all they're paying for is that little bit of cost that is associated with that usage. There's no profit, there's no add-on besides that.
Well, it would be interesting to do a sampler survey. Doesn't have to be the whole customer base, just to get some, what was people's experience? That's all.
We'll look
Anything we
into,
could do differently.
we will look into what we can do in contacting Facilitron and finding those users who have booked or have declined the reservations. And then we'll follow up with you with regarding those surveys and data points.
And I just would put some scope on that, like, you know, don't spend 40 hours of a week doing that, you know, so, yeah.
Well, I support what our board president is saying. You know, this is not meant to suddenly take you off task or shift priorities. But you're at the board level right now with an engagement and, you know.
Thank you. I appreciate your perspective and your viewpoint and our board president as well. I do want to drive back to what I think our board president is alluding to, because we have limited resource and we may have, you know, limited personnel. The question is, when you have, say, you know, YB at 102 event, Piedmont at 100, and Mount Pleasant at 80 event, each one of these sites, do they receive some portion of direct back into them? Or are we simply a tax to the APA or the site administration, each one of these? The more event, the more work you do, but you
don't get any, yeah.
you're getting penalized for providing great service.
No, that's a great question. Yeah, so the sites get 85% of the revenue that comes in. The district gets 15%. So 85% goes to the site level cost of maintaining the events. The 15% that comes back to the district helps to offset the utility costs, those kind of stuff that the sites don't pay.
Bathroom, toilet papers, et cetera, paper
Exactly,
towel,
yeah,
et
The
cetera.
custodian time to be there that they're paying for.
But what about the time and the resource of the site administration themselves? The APA is a valuable resource and not a cheap one either, if you don't mind me being
So
so
when you
direct.
so the way the cost is mathed out, it's basically a mathematical formula. And included in that formula is the cost of the administrative salaries to oversee the project. And a portion of the cost of the APA salary would be included in that calculation. So the last time the calculation was done, I think, was in 2017. So it needs to be redone, which is one of our recommendations. And we would want to redo that with the most current figures.
But you bring up a good point, which is every minute one of our, any employee, whether it's administrator, whoever is being tasked with this, the minute that they're doing facilities rental for outside agencies is a minute they're not working directly with our students in our campuses. And that's the balance, right? How to be a fair, good neighbor and allow for the use of our facilities while making sure that we can keep them in good order and also serve the direct purpose for why we're here, which is to make sure we meet our students where they are and get them toward full participation. And anytime we pull them off that task, we pull them off that task. 100%.
There's an absolute trade-off, which is what I'm driving at. I recognize and appreciate we want to be good neighbors. We want to provide the service because the public pay essentially, you know, pay through their bond measures and taxes, et cetera. But the time of our staff, there is a real value to it. And we have limited staff, you know, no matter how we slice and dice it.
Very good. Member Lay, you have comments?
Yes, we have an incident last year that the public member reserve the facility and they have to wait for 3 weeks. Then the administrator come back and said, sorry, we couldn't do it, whatever the reason. I was questioning that how long does it take when Facilitron, you know, lay out on the calendar, and if the public member public did not see any blocking on calendar, and they sign up or they reserve that because they're gonna have to plan for their event, you know, within 2 weeks or 2 months or month and a half to do the fundraiser or something for their religions, it's gonna take much longer. But when we respond to them, like 3 weeks later and turn around that they couldn't go anywhere because they already publicized everything like that. I was wondering, the Facilitron has the mechanism to, you know, work with the administrator. Either administrator know that when is the school facility or when the school event, they would block it. But if they don't block it and Facilitron accept it, well, a notice subject to administrator, but the time frame is very tight for member public. I want to be fair because member public, they already
That's not fair to
invested.
wait 3 weeks.
It's
All right, so
fair
that's-
for them.
Yeah, let
So
me,
if-
let me go ahead and take this one. This is part of why we're presenting tonight is like when we get to this rental experience, right? And you can see, hey, you requested, you've done the deposit here, your request is waiting approval. What I think staff will probably come back with is inverting that, which is saying, we've approved your request, and now you have so many days to provide a deposit. And if you do not, then your approval is denied. So that's one of the things that we want to talk about is how we can look at the flow and how the notifications so that we don't have those large gaps in time. And also that someone would have to deposit and then
Right.
wait for a long period of time, whether it's yes or no. And that's not unique to last year. We don't have many cases like that. Sometimes there are times when people request and it feels like it takes a long time to get an answer. What we don't want to do is have people have to put down a credit card deposit and then be unsure as to whether or not it's approved. So we're going to look to address the timeline and the notification on that issue specifically.
Okay,
But I will say, so our early part of our conversation, we have to be mindful that our administrators and our staff are doing many other different things during the day. And so there might be times where it's not currently, I think it says here within several business days, we're going to have to be transparent with the community and say, it might take longer for us to get an initial response to you. But once you have that response, then the deposit and insurance will have to be proven in a short period of time.
so you're gonna come back with the time frame when the member public try to reserve it and the administrator will review it, finalize the payment, even though they make a payment, even though they put a credit card to reserve, it doesn't mean that they have.
Yeah,
the
so right
facility.
now it says, right, like if you look at it now, it says your request is now awaiting approval. That's
Right.
post deposit, right? So if
Right.
somebody keeps reading, go, hey, I'm not officially approved right now. I'm awaiting approval. I think we can work with Facilitron to make it the user experience
Okay.
clearer. And allow our administration to be able to say, I still need a little more time to make the decision, but once I make it, you'll have this much time to do the deposit.
Okay, I do have a couple more questions. I know some place that they don't have in the Facilitron. Let's say that the quad of YB or the space area in front of the stage of Andrew Hills. And the community want to rent it, but they couldn't rent it because they don't have it in the Facilitron. So that is something that, is like a space. It's not a room, it's not a theater, it's not, a student union. So I want to bring it out because other people probably gonna have the question, it's the same with the Moon Festival organizing committee. They try to book it ahead of time because they want to organize it, but they still cannot get into Facilitron. That's something that I want to bring it up, right?
That's an easy fix. One thing we'll have to do is we'll have to provide new funding, a new fee structure for those spaces. That's easy to do, so no problem.
Okay,
But I also want to make clear, and this is something that we'll have to work with our community as we think on these policies and everything, that we are not event centers. It's inherently, we're not built for that. Like we are not a stadium that was built specifically for that business, right?
right,
So there are times where there might be evenings or weekends where we'll have to say to a group, we don't have the staffing or the availability to do this, or the nature of the event is unclear to us, and therefore we're not able to just open up our entire grounds for you to use one space. And so we'll just have to be mindful of that. The other thing that groups will have to be, and I thought was my best part.
Sure, that's probably a good omen. Let's call for a 10-minute break and then we'll come back after the internet's back up. We're back. We could gather us all up again so we can We're getting into the home stretch here for our meeting, so
So, okay. So, so, okay, all right, so Superintendent Vandersee, you answer about the question about like the space was including in the facilitron, so maybe we can work something else, right? Well, actually, because the committee want to make sure that we have the place and so they can plan, because without facilitron or without things, how can they plan? Okay, so those things like that, I think I just want to bring it up. I also have the questions, like some event, like religious event, they need to take time for the planning for decoration, and they might not need tons of custodian to take care anything. All they want is if they can open the door, maybe one person custodian, and and maybe at the end they will have to come in, one day before to prepare a decoration. Then the next day that they will have a big event. So what I'm thinking is, for the preparation for the event like that, I don't know how can we just have to make them to pay like at least 2 custodian for 4 hours, each 4 hours. Is that, I don't think it makes sense.
That's something that the board will have to discuss and take
Okay, that's
action.
the board policy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because right now the board policy says that, hey, if our schools are open and custodial services need to be there for the protection of the individuals renting, for the protection of the facility, in case something goes wrong, that the appropriate person is there to address it, and to make sure that when students and staff show up on Monday, if there was a weekend event, that, hey, we're ready for school and we know this.
But also I wanted to remind Superintendent, per our CBA, the minimum hours required for a custodial staff is 3 hours.
That's correct. And so I believe that was part of the presentation. And so we can work with groups to say, hey, if you're renting a classroom, rent it during this time because there's already custodians on campus. But if you are going to utilize or rent our facilities when the custodians aren't on campus, the board is going to have to make some sort of decision whether they're willing to waive that type of service, understanding that currently it is in our collective bargaining agreement, and also that our buildings are then open to liability or for something to go wrong without an
Right.
employee of ours ready to respond appropriately.
Yeah, no, I understood. I want to protect, our facility as well as, our employee also. My question, because the community asking me that they just do the preparation, just do the decoration, and they don't need, every 2 custodian for every 4 hour, from, the day before, we open the door and we have one that the end to close the door. But my other question is, when mentioned here, nonprofit/organization designed to promote youth and school activity, district may charge it an amount not to exceed the direct cost. So an event like, like the Moon Festival, is also promote youth, and school activity, as well as they try to fundraise for our homeless youth. Gear back to the board mentioned about each trustee can only sponsor only one event a year. But like, see, if this event that I would sponsor, then I don't have any other event in the community that they asked that I could not sponsor because I already reserved one for, and for the event that is already support for youth and for our homeless student. So I think it's maybe we can talk a little bit more policy to maybe increase to, event sponsor, for each trustee. I don't think it's not asking 3 or 4, but at least 2 a year. And if this nonprofit organization, that they have been working with the district year after year, like, like 10 years. And I think we should give them some break anyway, in the sense that because they already built a track record, not like a brand new nonprofit organization to work, and come in and do the event, and we don't know that they walk away with damage and whatever, so maybe I just want to throw out a couple things that we look out for the community as well as for our district.
So just some follow-up questions or?
That type of recommendation is something that we'd have to bring to the board for discussion because currently there is existing policy that limits it to one per year.
Yes, I remember.
And also speaks to the need for the indirect cost of custodial presence and any other support material. So if we were going to bring that policy to the board for change, then we would have to talk about what the recommended language would be and eventually after second reading, take a vote on that.
Yeah, that's all I have.
One of the questions I asked Matt while we were on our break was, does our pricing account for weekend use versus day use? Meaning, we'd have to charge overtime. We'd have to be paying overtime for our custodians. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the answer you gave me, 'cause then
Absolutely. So
people at
the
home
fees
can
for
hear.
custodians take into account an average of our custodian salaries across the board, so on overtime. So if you have a head custodian, the fees may be a little bit lower than their actual salary. If you have a brand new custodian, it may be a little bit higher than their actual salary, but takes the average of it. The unfortunate thing though is our fees haven't been updated since 2017, so they need to be updated. That's one of the reasons why we're going to come back to you with updated fee schedules, be more in line with current dollars.
Thank you. That's coming back, you're saying?
Yeah, that's one of the things we want to take away from this is coming back to you guys with updated fee schedules.
Very good.
That's been a hot topic in the past, so I assume.
You're echoing.
Turn that off.
Glenn, could you say that again?
The last time the board had discussion, there was definitely a diversity of views and so that might be something that we might, in order that we take that policy decision maybe to the side concurrently as we maybe make other adjustments within the system as a whole. Doesn't get sidetracked.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
Two particular questions. I mean, I just had a conversation with our associate student HR, former principal at Piedmont, where she had 100 events at her school. You said earlier. So instead of the APA, so I know our administrators, our principal and our APA, they don't get paid overtime. But an event is on a Saturday, if they have to show up, technically it doesn't show up from the financial because there's no out of pocket. But there is a tax to our principal and our administrator, because if they come on Saturday, they're not exactly enthusiastic coming on a Sunday and a Monday and a Tuesday for the other 99 events. So how do we calculate for that so it makes sense to the districts? So because again, every time you spend A, you're not spending on B, which is our students. And I want to be a good neighbor. I also want to make sure our students get taken care of. How do we calculate for that?
Yeah,
So our administrators are not compensated they don't qualify for overtime work. And
Right.
so if they do show up for weekend events, and especially if they're extended weekend events,
Right.
we do have provisions within our AR and our policies that those administrators can then exchange their non-duty days or reschedule a non-duty day in exchange for showing up on those weekends.
One more time, the last sentence, sorry.
The administrators who show up on those weekends for extended periods of time, although they don't get compensated for it, they can exchange that for a non-duty day during their work day.
They come in, they open the door, they're gonna come back to close the door. I'm pretty standard, I imagine. So does that count it as a whole day, or does that count as
It does not.
20 minutes?
It does not count as a whole day. So examples of events that would count for the entire day would be if they had to show up on a Saturday for the prom or for a playoff football game that requires them to be there for the entire day. Then they can use those days and those times to then exchange for non-duty days. Beyond that, our administrators are not compensated in any way for any extra time that they put in.
Thank you. That's a burden if you have 100 event or plus event at your school. And I think that conversation, we need to have that on the board at some point based on some of the requests that Trustee Lay have asked for by increasing the number of sponsor event.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at it in its totality, right? And just looking at where, if we add here, what it takes away from somewhere else. And so that doesn't necessarily, if it's 102 events, doesn't necessarily mean that one administrator went in 102 times, right? Or that some of these events didn't happen during the week, right? But it is something that we can look at and just be understanding of the fact that, you know, our custodians work hard during the week, and ask them to come in the weekend, there's a cost to that. Our administrators work hard during the week. And when, you know, as administrators, we go, bring it on, we got this, but there is a cost to.
Not all custodians want to work every single Saturday.
Exactly.
But I want to go back to a quick question. Do the site administrator have any knowledge of the deposit being collected or how it works? Do they have any knowledge of, as that process happen on Facilitron? Do they get an indicator?
Do you mean like how the funds are split or the revenue they bring in, or?
Organization A or.
Yeah, so there's a report that they get every day. So whoever is signed as the main account holder of the site, so like for the Ed Center, it's me. For the sites, it's generally the APA. They'll get a report every day showing the, you have this in your queue or you have that in your queue, basically.
Okay, I'd like to wrap up this conversation,
Me
but go
too.
ahead. Okay, thank you. Quickly, please.
Is-
Yes.
Just a comment by one board member, not a directive. If we don't already have built-in customer feedback or satisfaction feedback, it seems like it could be done fairly simply with a numeric scale, on a scale of 1 to 5. How was this? How was that? And then leave an open-ended thing for any comments they want to add, and just have it be part of the system, how it operates.
Now that's great, right? So just like not necessarily retroactively, but going forward, just build that in and have people be able to say how was their experience. I think that's great, because then it's really them doing the work, right?
This
So-
time it was the president speaking,
Yeah.
not just me.
Makes total
Okay.
sense.
Okay.
And it could be optional too, right? So that people don't feel like it's cumbersome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I have to fill out another survey. I mean, we
Yeah.
want to know. We
I
love
agree.
looking at data,
Yeah.
but like if someone just opts out, then they
Yeah,
should be.
I
able to.
forgot
Okay.
to add the word option.
Yeah, makes
Okay.
sense.
Very
An
good.
optional customer feedback.
Very good. Okay, wow, you have earned your it
was great
salary
conversations.
tonight, Matt. Thank you so much for the in-depth, all of the research you did and the very thorough presentation. We appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
thanks,
trip.
Matt, and to the team for putting that in and hanging out with us till 8:30. Oh, no, hey, he's down.
Clever analogy though, right? Taking us through a road trip. I like
There
it.
it is. And so, Board, so you know, our soups council and the team will go kind of synthesize some of your comments and feedback and get a course of kind of how we want to move this forward, and then give you an understanding of when we'll bring something back. And maybe not all at once, but give you a sense of like when we're bringing this aspect back versus a policy change in itself. Thank you.
Good, very good. All righty, moving on to 1302, discussion and or action to approve the contract for professional services over 25,000. This is standard. I'm just looking for a motion. Moved by Doe, second by Lay. Katie, how do you vote on this? Thank you. Board, all in favor?
I
What's that? I heard her first. Yeah. Okay, 1303, discussion and or action to approve contract CCTR 4333. This is our general child care and development program. This is a pass-through from the state, right? So we just need a motion.
Correct.
Second.
Moved by Doe, second by Chavez. Katie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, board, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That's it. Okay. 1401, discussion and or action to approve provisional permit request for certificated employees. Again, another standard item. I'm just looking for a
Second.
motion. Oh, I heard a motion by Herrera, second by, okay. Was that you? Okay, second by Lay. Katie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board, all in favor?
Aye. This is recurring, Jenny, so we know what we're talking about.
Okay. All righty, and we did 1501, so we're up to 1502, discussion and or action to approve the bond capital project contracts over 50,000. Again, standard item. Got a motion by Doe. Second by Herrera. Katie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board? Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. 1503, discussion and or action to approve the awards of bids, the use of CMAS bid awards and request for proposals for bond capital projects. Just a quick reminder, CMAS, is that like piggyback?
California Mass Agreement.
Oh, so this is like a standard rate table or something. Okay, good. Standard item, just looking for a motion. Approval. I'm going to say moved by Chavez, second by Doe. Katie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board, all in favor? Aye. Okay. That passes unanimously. And now we're up to the consent calendar. Just looking for a motion on that. I heard. Okay, okay. Okay, moved by Herrera, second by Lay. Katie, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that is unanimous as well. And now we are moving on to item 21, written reports. We do have a couple. We have a report 2102 regarding graduation data and college entry completion. So I advise the board to look that up and read it if you have an interest in that. 2103, report regarding English language learner progress.
I'd like to bring 21.03 to the next board meeting. I'd like to explore in depth for English language learner progress.
And what aspect of those programs beyond what's in the report?
Yes.
What elements of the program would you like more information on?
Oh, for English language learner progress. I like to have a little bit more in depth about district plan to increase A2G rate for EL student. And for on page 5, about 50% of EL receive D and F in English and math and science. So what is the district plan to help EL student improve their grade in these core subjects?
Okay, thank you for that.
2104, go ahead.
Still on,
Written reports.
oh, I see. Written reports.
2104 is a report on dual enrollment opportunities. Just know that's available to you as well. Moving on to 2201. This is opportunity to request future agenda items.
I think I request the ethnic study presentation. And
I believe we did that in the spring. Yeah.
okay, all right. And for the language, the Vietnamese language, I think I did request some that, but I don't know when we're gonna be on the timeline.
For what specifically are you looking for?
The Vietnamese language for those, the time that we've been talking about the books and the whole program that the community member has.
Yeah, we have our New World Language Act, so we can put something together. I'll have the superintendent ask you at your one-to-one what specifically you're looking for.
There might not be enough in terms of what we've been, in terms of progress of
Yeah, that's the
creating
progress.
modules. There might not be enough creation since the last meeting to bring it back for presentation. We can probably provide you with an update about the workflow and the process and the timelines.
So
Maybe you got a sample?
are we on 2202?
Yeah.
Okay,
2201, this
we are?
determining future agenda items. 2202 is
2202.
just a list of what's,
Well, I have a comment on that. Miss.
okay,
When we
but
get
I
there.
think we're still, I'm collecting still all the
Okay.
requests for future items. Okay. We're good?
Yeah, we good.
Okay. Now go ahead, 2202, if there's a comment. you'd
Yeah,
like to
at
make.
the end, under Board Member J. Manuel Herrera, there's 2 items. The second one is update staff out-of-pocket expenses, an issue that I raised. Next month is going to be a year. I raised it in September of last year. And I think that when we put these items in, list them, that we're carrying them forward, we ought to list the month and year that they were brought forward, just to have some sense of, well, how long have we been carrying?
And,
them?
oh, again,
Can they see us?
Oh, we lost.
We're up.
thank you, whoever you are.
So,
We're up. Okay.
so there's no particular urgency on the issue of update staff out-of-pocket expenses. I have had conversations with the administration. I fully understand the different delays and, administrative processes that were underway. There's still no urgency, but I do want it to be obvious that it's going to be a year next year. And maybe we ought to start moving, bringing
I
this to
get
some-
your point of putting the birth date in there, right? Like putting the date
The
of,
month
wh-
and
of,
the month
of-
and the
and
year.
the year
that
when it was
brought
asked. That makes
forward,
sense.
Put into the pipeline.
Got it. Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. Anything else on 2202?
I, like the gentleman to my right, I also want hoping that we put a date on my own item too, because I did request a mobile vote. I think what the question study, what I was asking for was, how did our student do after they graduate from Eastside Union? I know that's a pretty vague and nebulous questions, so it can help me narrow it down. Let's say we look at, say, the Spartan Promise Program. What happened to our students when they graduate from Eastside 4 years later? How many of them graduate in that 4 years, or the 5th years, or the 3rd years? How do they do? That I know that there are private company who provide a snapshot of these informations, and maybe our administration about to have a better idea of what we can learn from, and so that we can improve our service to our students.
So what we have in the report is from the National Clearinghouse, which does include first-year enrollment, persistence rate, how many of our students continued from the first year to the second year, and it also has how many of our students completed their degree within the first 6 years.
But that's exactly what I'm looking for, and
It's in the report.
yeah, and then comparing us with other nearby school districts.
We don't have access to other school districts' data.
We won't have access to, because we can share with you our data. And we might be able to, in some of the charts, it might show county or state or country, but it won't be they would not be sharing the data between us.
We
and
get what we
SINs.
get,
Yeah.
and
So
we make good use of what we get.
I think what you're asking for, to the degree that we can provide it accurately, is in the report that you have tonight.
Okay, we are now on 2301, Board of Trustees. Board comments. I will start on my left with Member Chavez.
Welcome back to school, everybody. It's my favorite time of year. I also just want to take a quick moment to say thank you to Supervisor Arenas, because I believe she invested in Eastside. She gave us a grant to, I believe, doing some of the work with the Compadres Network, which is what we were talking about today. So that's a start of a lot more of what we need. But I really appreciated your point, Patty. We need to get more of that because our district is huge. And our students need it and deserve it. So, but just wanted to take a moment to say thank you.
Member Lay?
Yes, welcome back. And well, hope we have a good start. Didn't hear any bad news at all, no fighting, nothing at all. That's very good. I'm glad that everyone has been working very hard, knock on the wood. All right. Yes, and I just want to say that the organizing committee of the Moon Festival invite the Eastside community to join. Those kids that been put together the Moon Festival on Saturday, September 14 at Andrew Hills. So I think hope that we come by and support them. And they want to raise fund like every year for homeless student Makini event. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Doe?
Thank you and welcome back. I appreciate the enthusiasms from my colleagues for tonight's meetings and appreciate all the staff for coming here tonight to present, particularly Mr. Laukas for taking one of the longest presentations. I appreciate you taking the time, and also I understand that you and your team have quickly addressed an issue at Santa Teresa High School. Much appreciate for that, for your quick response. And please send our appreciation not only to you, but also to your team. I know you have a great team. I have a privilege of meeting many of them, so thank you. Of course, I appreciate the folks from Evergreen from dual enrollment. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you and your support of the dual enrollment program. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Member Herrera, and then you can double dip.
Happy that we're starting a new year and looking forward to it. It's been many years since I have visited our campuses, our school sites. And this year I am going to methodically, go to every site, and would have it be starting that next month. So just letting everyone know. Thank you.
Great.
Manuel.
Member Chavez, you want to add something?
Do want to just give a shout out. I'm like, how did I forget? I was just talking to Tere about this, all the YouTube, Instagram videos of welcome back to school. I seen a few headliners here, including our superintendent, assistant superintendent, and Sergio. You were like on the news. I was like, okay, I know that guy. I just think like our social media is like up another notch. I'm quite impressed. And it's great. We're involving the community and the kids, and I just love it. Just wanted to make sure that you all knew that we noticed that and we appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to echo that the Spartan Eastside Promise video was particularly awesome. I'm not on social media, but I shared that one because that was really great. And again, I want to acknowledge Matt, your team for the heroics of getting Santa Teresa back online. I mean, that talk about unsung heroes, that was really, anyway, please extend our appreciation to them for their incredible response to that. And I'm so excited to be working with Katie this year. We have a very, very strong, organized, active student governing board. And I'm really looking forward to your leadership and what the board will accomplish this year. And of course, welcome to our new associate superintendents as well. Mr. Superintendent, no, it's Katie. We'll hear from Katie first, and then we'll hear from Mr. Superintendent.
Well, first of all, I've never stayed till the end of the meeting, so I had no idea that I had an extra spot for comments, but I also wanted to thank board members, Van, Patty, and Superintendent Glenn, because of all the work you've helped us with over the summer. I'm really excited for what SGB can do this year. I feel like we have a lot of potential as a group. And once we have all of our members and more diverse student backgrounds and more voices to hear from, I think that we can get a lot of things done this year. So I'm really excited. Thank you.
Great, Mr. Superintendent.
Yeah, good things, good things. And I want to thank Ed Services and all the staff that came in, not on the first day of school, not the day before the first day of school, but even before that. There were trainings and groups and educators getting ready across different sites. We had counselors at Indy, pickleball going on at Silver Creek. I mean, there's just different emphasis and focus across the entire district. And, Julio, when you talk about the vibe is good this year, right? Like people are ready to engage with each other. I think we're done looking and pointing at things that don't work and saying, let's go, right? We can build this up and build these equitable communities. So thanks to staff that extended themselves and took on that work. Thanks to our students that came back ready to learn. Keep up, don't catch up. Thanks to all that efforting that we have around the Spartan Eastside Promise. I know our tech team was helping students log on with computers and Wi-Fi and stuff and working out those problems on the first day and just making sure that when our students and staff show up to work, we're just ready to go because the quality of our staff. And again, thanks to the efforts over at ST, it's nice to play football at dark, but with lights on, right? So that'll be helpful. All right, East Side, let's the Spartan Eastside Promise is an opportunity, and let's just go get it. There's no reason for us to not extend that to all our students. And our friends joining us, from the community college and Evergreen and San Jose City, looking to find a way to make college even possible during high school, is something that we're all going to continue to work for. Awesome. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. And now we need to hear from Legal Counsel 2402. Your report out, please. Excuse me, 2401.
Closed session item 2.04. The board unanimously approved or ratified 4 appointments and employments. They are Nancy Pereira as principal at Piedmont Hills High School, Ann Tran as APED at Piedmont Hills High School, Daniel Johnson as APED at Evergreen Valley High School, and Daisy Arellano as Dean of Students at Foothill High School. Closed session item 2.07. In the claim for damages of P. Cervantes, the board unanimously voted to reject the claim. In the claim of M. Moitoso, the board unanimously voted to reject the claim. In the claim of Allstate Insurance Company as subrogee of Chang Jiang, the board unanimously voted to reject the claim. In the claim of D. Flores, the board unanimously voted to reject the claim. And in the claim of J. Patel, the board unanimously voted to reject the claim. And finally, in the claim of J. Barnes, the board unanimously voted to reject the claim. There are no further reportable actions.
Thank you. Just a reminder that we'll have 2 meetings in September, September 5th and September 19th. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.